right, I'm Chris Savina with American Outdoor News, and today we're here with Elisa Grandizio from Hike, Explore, Recharge. Lisa, thanks for coming on.
Chris, I really appreciate you inviting me onto your show.
Now, you got a pretty interesting story here.
I do.
How did you start Hike, Explore, Recharge? And tell us a little bit about it.
Hike, Explore, Recharge just came out of a great interest that I personally have in hiking. I've, first started to hike many years ago when I was in my late teens, and it was something, just an activity that I really enjoyed. So, fast forward, roll into the COVID years, and we all kind of found ourselves kind of stranded up the creek without a paddle, so to speak, and needing to find some other ways to occupy our time. The gyms were closed, things that we, were used to doing were closed. So I sort of just went back to a passion that I had, that was hiking. And during that time, I decided that I was going to get certified to be a hiking guide through the American Hiking Guide Association. So I did that, yeah. And that's sort of what propelled me into starting this company.
So you went from being a casual hiker to really going hardcore. How do you get certified to be a hiking guide?
Well, as I mentioned, there's an organization called the American Hiking Guide Association, and they've actually set the standard for hiking guides across the United States. Many years ago, there was no certification. I mean, anybody could say, "Well, I'm a guide," and take you out. And one of the founders of the company, Joe Volpus, recognized this, and just an avid outdoorsman, hiker, great all-around person, decided that he was going to set some standards in terms of becoming certified, which I think is really a great thing. So I originally just started out wanting to take a wilderness survival course, just in case I were to get lost out on a trail, that I would know what to do. And the research sort of led back to becoming certified, and that's just what got me into becoming a certified hiking guide.
So it's not just like okay, you walk up the trail. It's first aid, it's survival skills,
Exactly.
things that every person should know, because things happen when you're out there.
Well, they do, and that's the point. It's not really about your physical ability when you get out there. That's important, but I grew up. My childhood was kind of spent by a beach. I didn't have a whole lot of experience out in the wilderness, and whenever I had gone out into the woods, I was always with somebody who was more knowledgeable. So I decided that safety is of the utmost importance. I really needed things. I needed navigational skills. I needed to know, not to just rely on a phone, but I needed to know how to learn the lay of the land. And as you said, if something happens, how am I going to build shelter, for the night? How am I going to find a water source?
Starting a fire, reading a compass.
Exactly.
It goes on and on.
Exactly, things like that. And so I decided that since I hike a lot on the East Coast in Pennsylvania and the beautiful mountains there, but also out in the desert Southwest, I took classes in both areas. I did survival, wilderness survival in both areas. I did, wilderness first aid, things like that. So, yeah.
So I see your logo has HER, HER, as an abbreviation for Hike, Explore, Recharge.
Right.
Do you focus on mainly women activities, women hikes, or you take groups of women out?
I do.
Because I know your background is life coach and public speaking and things of that nature. How does all that intertwine?
Well, another great question, Chris. After spending some years in a business outside of the realm of the outdoors, I just went on to get my life coaching certification. I was going through some things in my own life that I needed to, to address and try to get a perspective on how to handle it. And I very soon realized, I think that we all think, oh, we're always alone in the things that we go through, but then you realize that there's, a world of other people that are experiencing the same thing. And that's what propelled me to get into life coaching, which led into all these other areas, that you just touched upon. And I did some work with women in non-traditional industries, mostly male-dominated industries. And I also worked with segments of the population, college students that were from very underserved areas who came to college and didn't have a lot of the just awareness, and they had no real role models. So they were receiving their education, which was great. But I went on to do some mentoring and some leadership activities with them. And so that is, I do enjoy working in that segment. I feel like that's, my little niche where I do best.
So you organize these hikes. Where do you go?
Well, I have some real go-to areas, and I have to say personally, I love the Southwest. I'm not from the Southwest, but I have fallen in love with it. And there's so much to explore out here. There's culture, there's geographical, there's land formations, there's history. There's just, it's so much more than hiking. So I specialize in like boutique trips. They're very small, curated group. I call them adventures, travel adventures. So it goes beyond hiking. And that's where the hike, explore, recharge comes from, because I try to keep it very well balanced. We immerse ourselves in the area where we are, where we do some, mindful activities. We explore our surroundings. We talk to people that are experts and knowledgeable in the area that we explore. So it's more than just a hike. It's a whole.
So it could be a day hike, could be a weekend hike.
Well, I put together their multiple day trips. I'm totally not opposed to guiding day hikes, but I feel to get the most out of it, for what I'm trying to focus on, a day sometimes doesn't do it. The whole purpose of it is to, re-spark a passion and purpose in life. And I think people get burned out, in what they do. And it's great to go out. I mean, if you have an hour, even an hour is plenty of time to get out into the woods and do that. Or just go for a walk in your neighborhood, whatever, just to get out of your space. But to really get the whole full benefit, they're like mini retreats.
Yeah.
So, and I do focus in the Southwest. I formed some wonderful partnerships with some organizations and companies out here. So I love to take people out here and show that to them. It's a world that I hadn't been exposed to, prior to becoming involved in this.
Now, I know you've done a lot of the national parks. Do you have a favorite destination that you like to just pick up and go to?
I love the Superstition Mountains. It's not a national park. It's a, wilderness area. There's so much to explore. There's so much great history there. And it's a place that you can go to. There's an option, many options of trails. So you can go on, very crowded trails, but you can also, just be out there all by yourself if that's what you want to. But that is one of those areas that you really need to have some survival skills. It's not a place that you just want to pop yourself into and say, oh, I'm going to hike, out in the Superstition. But if we're talking about national parks, I love Glacier, Glacier National Park.
Sure.
Really, it just sets the standards for parks. It's beautiful.
Okay, so let's say Superstition Mountains, for example. That's in Arizona. It's desert. You're taking a group out. How should they prepare? What should they expect? And what type of gear should they bring along with them?
Well, those are all things, obviously, that I would go over with people, before we would even venture out, to actually go on, hikes up into those mountains. I think that they would have to have, first of all, I would know my group before we went, so I would know their physical their level of activity, how prepared they would be to go out. And one thing about my business model is that it is scalable, so that there are many of these places. The Superstition Mountains, unfortunately, isn't one of them, but there are places that you can go where a lot of it can be done by four-wheel drive. So the hiking aspect of it, it's a lot more exploration than it is hiking. But that said, so the Superstition Mountains, I mean, you would need to train. I mean, you'd have to train. A lot of times the elevation is going to be more than what people coming, flatlanders are coming out here, and you're thinking, oh, it's just a couple thousand feet, but that really gets you. The heat, we would set out early because the heat in the desert is very unforgiving. Today it's going to go up to 96 degrees. So it's not in your best interest to set out on a hike at say noon, so we set out at the crack of dawn. We always have water, that's one thing that it's like, if there's something you're going to carry in your pack. So I would encourage people, I would expect that you have a day pack, and that you have a hydration bladder, and that, we have electrolytes, not just water, but you need electrolytes to replenish
Sure.
all the, sort of stuff. So these are some things that casual hikers might not necessarily be aware of. You have a lot of people come out here, they just have like a 12-ounce bottle of water, and they think they're going to set out on a trail. We always
Not
have
enough.
no, absolutely not enough. And that's why there's rescues here all the time. They actually shut some of the mountains here down. I've been out hiking. I've witnessed numerous helicopter rescues. I've got some great footage of it. Where just people get into situations that they can't. Footwear, that's another, very important thing, is what do you have on your feet? Some people are more comfortable hiking in higher boots, with some ankle support. Personally, for me, I don't do as well with the higher boots because I have a shorter leg. So sometimes that tends to hit me and, like right at the bottom of my calf. But that's important, to have comfortable footwear and comfortable clothing. Again, you want something that's quick dry, a
Something
hat.
breathable.
Yeah, something breathable, a hat. And although it sounds sort of counter intuitive, but long sleeves, a light color long sleeve shirt. You see people with, white long sleeve shirts buttoned down, something that will keep the sun off your body.
What are some of the dangers that somebody would require a guide to keep people from coming into these pitfalls, like wild animals, bears,
Correct.
cliffs, or what kind of dangers are involved? They're not just walking out on a Sunday stroll.
That's exactly right. I mean, anytime you decide that you're going to step into the woods, you're going to come face the fact that you may come up close and more personal than you want to be to some wildlife. I mean, I've come across rattlesnakes on trails. I've come across black bears, grizzly bears, moose, elk, deer. I actually saw a mountain lion run across, a road. That was a little scary. Out of any encounter that I had, I was happy that I was far away and protected, but nonetheless, there are all those animals out there. So it's good to have some knowledge and some training, in those areas. It's not preventable. That's not something that I can prevent, but it's definitely something that I would have a little bit more awareness out in the wilderness to, sort of.
You can look ahead and say, okay,
Right.
here's a track. There's a mountain lion in the area. There's a bear in the area. So now when you go out, especially when you're guiding a group, do you carry some kind of bear spray, a firearm, or some sort of protection?
I do. So I do carry bear spray. I don't carry a firearm, although I have a concealed permit carry, so I could carry one. Of course, in national parks, you can't have firearms, so that's out of the question. So yes, I mean, I think that would be my first line of defense, would be bear spray.
Well, you always got to be prepared. Now, do you use a compass, or you just know these trails?
Well, I tend to try to go on trails that I know. I do know how to use a compass. One thing that I do is I try to download maps ahead of time on the trails. There's so many great apps out there. One thing that people don't realize is that some of these apps that are available, there are ways to download those maps so that you have them on your phone, so that when you lose cell service, which you generally do when you're out there, you still have that map at hand. But of course, you can't always rely on that. So you really need to understand, have some basic route finding skills, know where you came from, know where you're going back to. And I always carry, like a Garmin, I do carry a GPS, a satellite phone with me whenever I'm venturing out into the woods.
I've been up in the Adirondack, which is a pretty thick type
Yeah.
of woods, and I always had a compass with me. I'd shoot a point going in, so
Correct.
I knew exactly where I needed to go, and I could come out within feet of where I went in.
Right. Right. And those are important things. And I think that's some of the dangers that, of people that venture out into the woods by themselves, is that they look at their phone like, oh, okay, I can just follow this trail, or I'm going to follow this. And then the minute that stops working, we had an incident here. It's unfortunate. I mean, we do have here in Arizona, people that unfortunately die on the trail. There was a woman back in September, and according to all accounts, she was around my age. She was local. She lived in the area. She knew these trails. She was on them, and she was what her family would have considered an avid hiker. And the last message that she sent was to her husband that was like, I got a little bit off course, but I'm okay. And he didn't hear from her, for hours. And it turned out that, she had run out of water.
Oh boy.
The heat had gotten to her, and they actually, unfortunately, found her deceased. And she wasn't more than 800 feet she was off trail. So she wasn't on the trail, but it was that far off of where the trailhead and the parking area was. So it's a reality. I mean, it happens.
It was close enough to get out, but
correct.
It's easy to get disoriented.
It is, and that's the whole thing. It is easy to get very disoriented, when you're hiking, especially in the heat, or I mean, even in the woods. You look around, you see one tree,
they all look the same.
Right, exactly.
So what advice would you give a novice that wants to get started into what you're doing?
I would say read a lot, read up on the areas that you're going to go into. Do not step foot on a trail unless you understand, where that trail is going, how far it is, that you understand the area that you're going to. I mean, I would say don't hike alone. And that's something that I struggle with, because I hike alone, I do hike alone. But I would say it's always best, to go with someone, and to make sure that you're physically capable. I mean, you're going to come into situations where you maybe have to scramble. You maybe have to go through, water. So you have to really understand what you're getting into, before you go out and into
know your body, know your capabilities.
Know your capabilities, right? And there's nothing wrong. I mean, there
and your limitations.
Correct. And that's one thing that that I think is the hardest thing, because I think we all think, oh, I can do this. You have to be willing to say, this might be a little bit beyond what I'm capable of. So
now, do you keep a book in your day pack, like a survival book, that might give plants that are edible, plants that are poisonous. If you get lost, you're going to get hungry eventually, and you
are. And that would probably be a wonderful thing to keep. I keep a card for like wilderness first aid. So what to do in emergencies, what to check for, things like that. What you can use if you're out there. If you break a limb, you maybe need to set it. I had an experience in a canyon in Nevada. I was hiking with a friend of mine, and we were rappelling. There were 7 different areas where you had to rappel down to get into the bottom of the canyon. So we were coming along, and we come down to the last one, and my friend Chris is a little bit taller than me, so she was going first because she knew the area. She got down to the bottom, and she said, "Oh, it's a little, the rock's a little slippery down here." So her last step, she just stepped right down off onto the ground. And as I said before, well, a height challenge, so I wasn't able to take that last step, and my foot slid out from underneath me. And what that did was the weight of my pack just turned my body, and just turning my body just that little bit pushed my hand up against the rock. And I sliced my hand right open, right down. I could see my tendon, and I'm very fortunate that I didn't slice my tendon. But I got right down. I looked at her. I said, "All right, we got to get this bandaged up like quickly." So I carry a full, first aid pack, and that's what we did. We dumped all our stuff. We butterflied it together, taped it up. I quick, had something to eat, something to drink, and I said, we've got to get back out of the canyon, because at that point, I just didn't know if my body was going to go into shock, or whatever. So there's always, it doesn't matter if you're a hiking guide, nobody's immune to. You could be as prepared as you can be, but
you got to keep a roll of duct tape in your pack. Duct tape fixes everything.
It does. I'm actually packing for a hike to Havasu Falls next week, and I have duct tape. Took a piece of it, rolled it around a plastic cylinder that's going to be filled with a bunch of little, kind of first aid things, and I've got duct tape. So
there you go.
There you go. If you need it, it's the number one thing you need in your pack. So.
All right. So where can we find you if we want to go on a hike, or just find out more information about what you do and how to get with you?
Sure. So I have a website. It's Hike, Explore, Recharge, all one word, .com. So you can find me there. You can reach out, sign up for, to be on my mailing list. It also gives you a nice overview of the types of activities that I offer. So I wholeheartely encourage small groups of people, friends, family members, co-workers, to, reach out if you want to go on one of these experiences. But it doesn't preclude people that are traveling solo, because you can very quickly, hook up onto one of the trips. The other way is through Instagram. So it's hike_explore_recharge. And that's where you can find me. So please follow my account, and I'll keep you posted on things, that I have going on. And you can get to see some of the places that I've been. And if any of them interest you, I'd be happy to put a tour together to take you there.
Great. I appreciate your time, and good luck with your time out in the woods.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate you asking me to be on the show.
Anytime.
Okay. Take care.
We love our children. We protect them. We guide them. We prepare them for life in the world. With all that we do, from deep in our hearts, we cannot control all things. Life-threatening illnesses and disabilities affect far too many of our children each year. While we cannot change the circumstance, we can make dreams come true. Dreams to provide hope, to provide spiritual healing and strength, to provide moments of happiness and relief in the hardest of times. We can give a glimmer of light and hope in a time of darkness and despair. Join huntofalifetime.org to help make dreams come true, to provide hope for children with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Hunt of a Lifetime is a nonprofit organization fulfilling dreams for hunting and fishing trips to youth 21 and under with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Visit huntofalifetime.org to learn how you can make a difference.